Hey, what's up guys? This is the first installment of how to install one of these for those of you who don't want to send your bird to me to have it done. Figured I'd go through and do this for y'all, and this way, you can see if it's something that you want to do or if you want to send the bird to me to have it done. I also wanted to bring up another point that I failed to touch on in the last video. Another reason that I wanted to come up with, powering the Superbird with something like this is because the last set of batteries that I bought, well, I actually very recently bought a set of batteries, but the set before that only lasted me like a year. And then the batteries just started crapping out on me. And before that, the set before that lasted a long time, like, 5 or 6 years. So that was awesome. But way back when I was looking into this, and I was trying to grow this thing. So I contacted that battery manufacturer in China, and I spoke with a really nice lady over Skype. And it was about possibly finding a different solution that they could supply, because what happened was the engineer who designed the 14500s that we know and love, for no apparent reason, one day just packed up all of his stuff and left. So I thought that I was operating under the impression that what we had then was all we would ever have. Since then, they've come out with a V2, but this V2 is what I bought last go around that only lasted like a year. So I'm afraid what's going to start happening to a lot of you guys is more than likely a lot of your batteries are going to start crapping out on you. Now, you can still get the V2s on eBay. I went ahead and bought a set of those before I did this, because I'm not converting all mine over to this. But anyway, it's just something to keep in mind in case you do start having problems like your batteries are not, holding a charge like they used to. That might be what's going on. And I don't know if they ever worked that out to get that specific battery chemistry back into production, or if we're just dealing with, batteries that are 10 years old by now. So with all that out of the way, what we're going to do today is just show you how this gets wired up. And I'm going to be using this piece of copper to make some stakes to go out there, go through it and solder to, and that'll be what slides in here to make contact. Now, I did order a strip, 1,000 millimeter strip by 15 millimeters by 1 millimeter thick, and that should be perfect for these slots that I've already got in here. I designed them for 15 millimeters by 1 millimeter. So I will leave a link to that for you guys to show you what I'm talking about in case you want to do this. It's like 15 bucks or something like that. And we're using 16 gauge silicone copper braided wire, the flexible stuff. This stuff should be pretty flexible. Yeah, pretty floppy stuff with a whole lot of little strands in it. This is what I like to work with. So now this particular housing doesn't show you where the positive and negative go. That's because I've got one coming in, and I'm going to be actually doing this, and the other installments of this series are going to be with that one. But in this morning, I thought about it, and I went and I added in to the model a positive and negative. So the ones that you guys get will have a little plus and a minus down here to show you what wire is what when you're bringing it up and connecting it to the board. They come out and cross over and then connect to the board. But it's not something you want to get mixed up with. So I'm going to make my blades out of this, and we'll be right back. The goal with this is making these tabs, blades, whatever you want to call them, fit in the housing like so. And then what we're going to do is, you can see, you might be able to see them in there. That's one of, we're going to take them out, and we're going to mark, we're going to take an awl and scratch mark it right there, the intersection where this floor is in there, and then mark both of them and pull them out, and then bend this inward, solder our wire to it on this side of it, and then stick them back in going through this side, and then we will take epoxy, fill it in there, and we'll be good to go. And this might take a little bit of fiddling and fidgeting to get right, but you can also you can always opt to have me do it, because I'm going to be offering these just this with some buttons and a piece of plexiglass for the window, and let you wire it, or this already wired, or you could just send me your bird to wire. So we're going to go in here and scratch. Actually, I want something with a little bit better of an angle on it. Okay. Okay. See our scratch on there? Okay. So let's see. This sits in there like that. I need to bend it over on the scratch. There's my other calipers. To do this, I get the pliers just a little bit under it. And you'll see why we're doing this in a minute. All right, so now we're going to solder a wire onto this side of it, and then we'll be able to fish it down in there. And it might hang up a little bit on here. We might have to do a little bit of filing, but we'll get it in there. So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and clean those edges off. with some steel wool. And if you don't know how to solder, I highly recommend it. I've learned a lot of skills by messing around with these BB guns, and soldering is one of them. 3D printing, CAD, patience, go on and on and on. All right, now we are going to pre-tin our wire. You are all up in the way. I might have to move you. We don't need our wires to be very long. Well, we'll cut them this long. Might trim them a little bit later. We're going to go ahead and separate these. Now, I got some, I don't think I'm going to use them, some of those automatic wire strippers. I don't think I'm going to use them for this, but so let's see. Okay. Got our little helping hand. Get some of this crap out of the way. Let's see. Hot. I'm gonna have to check my orientation so I don't get everything backwards before I solder everything down. I'll go ahead and solder the other ends of this before I get everything epoxied in there. It'll be a little bit easier to do it that way. See, when we get to the board, what we're going to do is this is a battery tab off of the board, off of a board, and what we're going to do is just remove these, solder the other ends of these wires directly to the pads. I'm going to go open the door. All right. Now, since this is going to go in here like so, make sure I got all the stuff out of it. Positive on this side, negative on this side. So we'll go ahead and start with the positive. And that is going to sit down in there like so. So we need it soldered in that orientation. So there's that one. And this one's going to go in there like so. So we need this soldered like that. Now, I'm going to take a little break and go inside and get some alcohol to clean these off to help prevent corrosion in the future, because these are going to be encased in epoxy. The reason for this is there's flux, resin, whatever you want to call it, inside the solder, and if it doesn't get burned off completely, removed somehow, it'll cause corrosion, so we just don't want that. And alcohol, or like soapy water, acetone, all that stuff will get rid of it. It just kind of depends on what the situation calls for, All right. Let's see, what did I say? Positive on the left. Now this might take some fiddling. You might end up having to pause it and shaping these a little bit, because you got to get them under one of the board supports. It's also like a circuit board locating pin, I guess you'd call it. It just happens to be right there. This is just knocking the corners off. And I might just end up pausing this. I'm not sure if I will or not. I kind of want you to see what it entails. See if you're up for it or not. Just breaking any corners that are going to hang up in there. Okay, that's one. And I think we'll spare you for the other one, and then I'll jump back on here in a second. All right, I've got both of those in there. A little tip, after you knock off all the corners and edges, take some of your steel wool and make sure that just hold the blade between two pieces of steel wool and work the blade around, and that'll make it slide in there a lot easier if you get it all smooth like that. Now, what I'm going to do is, remember I said before that there need to cross. I've gone ahead and crossed the wires down here, and I'm going to push these blades down just a little bit more. All right, and before I epoxy it, I'm going to make sure that on this side they are where I want them. Basically, you want to, if you push on them this way, they're not going to go. That's where they're going to, where you're you want them to be, and not be able to push down any further than where you want them by pushing on this side. So now I'm just going to mix up some epoxy and drip it in there. I guess I'll show you how I do that. About how much, whatnot. So I'm using this JB Weld Clear Weld professional grade quick setting epoxy. 5 minutes. 5 minutes, that really means 48 hours. And in a warm environment. It'll still be tacky for that long. And it'll set up, and you can work with it in like an hour. I just don't trust it any sooner than that, and I really don't even like to mess with it for 2 days. So I think we're going to need just a little bit more of that other. Definitely want to mix it good. Now, I'll show you these little bosses later, but these little bosses keep the board off of the floor of the board housing by about 4 millimeters, something like that. And that gives room for you to pass these wires underneath the board when you're fishing them down there to link up with the tabs. All right, now at this point, once you've got enough epoxy in there, what you need to do is make sure it doesn't go where you don't want it to go for about 5 minutes or whatever. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the next 5 minutes. Yeah, I know the lighting in here sucks. I'll get you some better shots of it after it gets a little bit solidified. Let's see. Here we go. Now, this cavity down there below that X, it doesn't really matter if you get epoxy in there. That's just where I hollowed it out to save on filament. This filament, by the way, is carbon fiber PLA. And we can look over here on this side, and I can see where the epoxy, I don't know if you can see it, but I can tell where the epoxy did come down but not out around the blade, so it is perfectly glued those in there. All right, guys, next one we should have his bird, and we're gonna pop the board in and get him going. Later.